Keith Ferrazzi wrote a book called Never Eat Alone, which was a really solid idea and approach to networking that I did. I took it up and I networked like a maniac. And I would go to a trade show and probably had lunch with 10 different people and coffee with 20. And I would use those opportunities just to move around the room. So yeah, never eat alone when you're networking. And then there was a point for me where that just became exhausting. I didn't want to do that anymore. So now we've got this idea of never work alone. And Brian, we're going to talk about how we built the entrepreneur campus together. What do you think about this, Brian?
It all started in a network meeting, Larry. That's how all this started.
Didn't it?
And I remember I was towards the beginning part of this, not my entrepreneurial journey, but certainly what I'm doing now. And I remember being in the room with you, and I was like, he's going to pitch me. I know, I can feel it coming. And that's not what you did. You're like, we need to work together. I was like, we do? And you're like, yeah, you've got what I need, and I've got some of the things I think that you need. And God, that was like a year and 3 months ago, something like that. So we've been doing that from the very beginning, man. I didn't know that's what we were doing.
Yeah, and the idea of he's going to pitch me is what I find everywhere I go. So everybody thinks I'm selling them, and I'm not doing anything even remotely related to that in reality. But it appears that way because that's what we're all taught to do.
That was my LinkedIn PTSD response. Like, obviously, this guy's been doing this a long time, so he's going to ask for my money in some way.
Yeah, I think it's
instead, I've invested a shit ton of time with you, and it's been a really good investment.
I think it is PTSD. I think of it as PTSD too. It's like I'm thinking, when did I start networking?
Post-traumatic sales dilemma.
Disorder.
Yeah,
it's a disorder. It's
a dilemma too.
Dilemma and a disorder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think about the disorder part. So the disorder part is believing things that aren't true for too long. That can turn into a disorder.
It's true.
A dilemma is when you don't know what to do about it.
Well, it's like, for me, it's like Mission Impossible. Like, I don't like selling, and I need to have money in order for this experiment to continue. So that's my dilemma as I talk about the sales PTSD.
And then the idea of I don't like selling is, what does selling even mean? And to me, selling and marketing just mean I'm trying to get somebody to do what I want. Right. And I don't like to have to figure out how to get people to do what I want. But I love being in a market, connecting with really smart people and figuring out how to do things together that work for all of us.
Yes. I mean, I'm intrigued by the whole pronoun conversation. Except for the word us. I really like that one.
Yeah, us is, it was a surprise because my life has always been about me.
Yeah. Yeah, there's no I and T, but there's definitely an M and an E in that word.
Yeah, there's an M and an E. It's always about me. And the idea of us meant I don't get what I want. And then I was taught, no, serve the world, and you'll get what you want. And I thought, I don't get that. I can't do that. And I ran free events for about 2-3 years, and I didn't get what I wanted from doing that in terms of reciprocity for doing that.
Oh, I did that with a very different shadow. There was the like holier, nobler than thou, because I was willing to martyr myself for others. Turns out that's not a good path to get what I want either.
Yeah, and how do you get on the us path? I was not able to do it with the reciprocity strategy of marketing and sales and networking. The reciprocity strategy means I'm trying to get something from you, and I will do something for you so I can get something for myself from you. And there was a point with that for me where I'm like, this is not going to work for me.
Interesting. And so I'm finding, as we've been pondering this for some time, there is a reciprocity. At least for the work I'm doing now, in like, the work that we're doing in the Invincibility Dojo, Like, I really love and need people to show up in that space so I can learn invincibility from another perspective. Like, I've got the N of one, I know that. But for me to achieve mastery, I got to do that with other people.
That's exactly what happened to me. And moving past reciprocity led into a feeling of us, of
Us.
recognizing that what works for me is to learn from others by helping them, but not by helping them as much as by connecting with them in a way that feels right for me. That's ultimately selfish. And I'm thinking about Mother Teresa, and I remember wrote an article about a year ago, maybe,
Yeah.
on the most selfish person I've ever seen. And I thought, I don't know how to explain this because it's going to confuse people. So I was trying to think, how do I make this simple? And I was like, that woman lit up by living in the slums of Calcutta.
Yeah.
It lit her up. It made her happy. Selfish. That's
Yeah.
selfish. Selfish service. And I thought that's it. It's selfish service. That's where we're trying to get. That's called us.
Yes. And here's an interesting idea. So, as you know, Larry, I've studied biohacking at a ridiculous level for a long time.
Yeah.
And we're going to column A, the detrimental side to biohacking. I was a breath junkie and I got high on my own supply for a year. I made DMT in my lungs, and man, did I chase that white rabbit. It's not as good as making DMT in other people for their bliss, because the way that the circuits work, so I could use heroin, I could use MDMA, pick your poison. That's a very selfish use of these biomarkers. Whereas if I help people find their own inner sanctum, my body is wired to give me the feel good chemicals. Because our competitive advantage of humans, I was talking about this the other day, me versus a gorilla, gorilla wins. 10 humans versus 10 gorillas, gorillas win. 50 humans that can communicate and coordinate, it's not even close. So we
Mm.
are biologically wired to the service of others, and it's the best high that there is. I found.
Yeah, we used to call this chi junkies. So chi
Oh,
junkies. So when I was learning Tai Chi in Sifu Bruce's dojo, which is now over 30 years ago,
yeah,
one of the things that happened to me is I became a chi junkie. So
yeah,
the more energetic power I was able to access inside myself using the kinds of principles and Karate Kid, Mr. Miyagi methods he was teaching us, the more powerful I felt. And one of the things I think I realized after a while is how limited that is and how it's basically a self-reinforcing circuit to nowhere.
yeah, yeah. And also, so I did that, and I would chase these euphoric out of body, just sitting on the rings of Saturn,
Yeah.
just a normal day. And the more I chased it, the more it was elusive. And when I really started not caring if I got there or not, now I can find it in between the heartbeats.
Yeah, the simplicity of the idea of we're talking about never work alone, how we built the entrepreneur campus together is the simplicity of it that just came really clear after a while was it's not about me.
Right.
It's not about me optimizing myself. And that's what I was trying to do.
Yeah. Yep. It was neat. I was in a networking group today. I was like, look, I want to collaborate with you guys. I'm not looking for clients. Let's go build something awesome together.
Did anybody believe you?
Had people sign up for time with me in that. I don't know. They scheduled time with me though. We'll see. That was today. That was this morning.
So let's talk about that. So this is the first line in the about section of this. So the barter economy, reciprocity networking, and influencer posting playbooks dominates the entrepreneur world. The idea of like-minded peers gets us forward, but has its limits.
Mhm.
What does that mean to you?
Well, if you had whispered that in my ear in 2018, I would have saved probably 5 years on this entrepreneurial journey. I thought that was the answer. I did what the other cool kid entrepreneurs were doing.
I
Uh,
I didn't, and then on 2020, I started to, and
mhm.
the reason is I've used a method my entire life I call More Money Now, which we just came out of that room. So it's a room Monday through Thursday. It's a business development creative method I started when I was in my 20s, and I've been doing it my whole life without understanding that's what I was doing. Now I can look back and see what it is. In 2020, I stopped doing it. And the reason I stopped doing it is I looked around and I saw these people on social media and I thought, wow, I want that permanent solution of having this audience. And once I get that audience, they will buy from me. I'll oversubscribe all my programs and I'll get freedom from this constant attack of bots of technology change,
Yeah.
financial change, and instability in my constant entrepreneur experiments. Even though I've been pretty successful, there was just this feeling of exhaustion around the prospect of all of it. So I stopped listening to myself and I started following the gurus online in 2020.
It's so interesting. There's a gentleman in this particular group that I was there, and he likes to pontificate. And man, like the folks that are like 55 and older, they eat it up. They like can't get enough of this guy. And I'm in this group. I'm like, what are we doing? Like I'm just noticing like the long, vulnerable, like social marketing, social media posting. I'm like, I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like this isn't for the sake of sharing your experience. This is for the sake of enrolling clients.
Well, they say at the bottom. So you'll have a whole long story about their pain experience. And at the bottom, it says,
Buy my
you know,
shit? Oh
click
no, it
here to
doesn't say
buy my shit.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so the,
Guys, we know what you're doing. It's okay. I was there.
so then people are like, but Larry, that's what you're doing. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's what you think I'm doing
Yeah, that's the projection.
because you're projecting what you're doing onto me. So, as an entrepreneur, coach, or service provider, many find the complexity of realizing the vision exhausting. The ideas of finding partners working together in collaboration fell short for us. So, for me, the difference fundamentally is I'm not trying to get people to do what I want.
Yeah. It's like, hey, I've got this cool party. You want to go? No, I'm not into fun. Okay, cool.
That's right.
If you ever change your mind, we're here. Doors always open.
And then, I'm thinking I watch people responding to me and they're like, "Yeah, but you want to make money too." And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Well, of course I do. Why wouldn't I?"
I mean, ideally, I would like to not have to worry about money at all. I want to jump to the next system, but we're not there yet.
I Yes, another right. Okay, so now you went way out woo.
Oh, sorry. I'll come back.
Okay, let me explain what Brian basically said is imagine a world without money.
Yeah.
Imagine a world where it was just fluid flow in a full barter economy across the global landscape with no hierarchies. Imagine that. Well, we don't have that right now. So I'm not going to build a company for that.
Right.
And I know enough now not to try to manifest money into my bank account by writing down numbers on pieces of paper and trying like Babaji from Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi to build it into like a castle that sort of shows up in the bank. Like, no, that's not going to work. I tried that. It doesn't work. I'm not good enough at creating $100 bills or $1,000 bills with my imagination. Didn't work for me. How'd it work for you? Did you try?
It did work. It did work for me. I realized that this has been the fuel or the hydraulic fluid to press me into places I didn't want to go. And so when I look back on not getting the money that I wanted, you and I wouldn't be collaborating. I would be running a multi-million-dollar a month insurance agency, not sharing my gift.
Oh,
That's what I was poised to do. I had all the tools to do it, and it I couldn't understand what the disconnect was. I was doing the things. I had the tools. I had the training. I was salesman of the year. I was a military leader. Like I should have 6-figure months in my insurance agency. And what was really interesting was like I'd have these deals lined up, and then they'd have like a health concern. Like it was always like a very odd, somebody's messing with the gears in my money machine. And it was me. It was me messing with the gears because now I get to do what I love every single day.
Yeah, and and then the coaching crowd online will tell you, well, you've got to work at manifesting better. Like
Sure.
yeah. So it's like
It's
run
only
my
2%.
run
It's
my
only
playbook
2% of it.
more effectively and efficiently. And this happened to me as well. So through 2020, 2021, 2022, and into 2023, when I settled on Solopreneur Inc. and launched on school,
Yeah.
now everybody's talking about school. I did my school thing a year ago before they even were.
You graduated school
I
already?
graduated school. I did it in January of 2023, and I'm like, no, this isn't going to work for me.
Right.
Um, and it started to work. So I had some people sign up, and they paid, and then started giving people their money back. And my wife's like, "What the hell are you doing? You already have a company. You already have a company." And it's because exactly what you said. It was, this is not what I want. I don't
Not
want
what I
to
want.
have a funnel. I don't
No.
want to be a coach for people in pain and finding ways to relieve their pain. I don't want to be a marketer.
Yeah.
I don't want to figure out better sales playbooks. I don't want to be like Russell Brunson or Alex Hormozy or Sam Ovens.
Yes.
And I was trying to be. I think it's an age thing in part. It's partly is I've already
Yeah.
done a lot of that stuff, but it wasn't enough millions,
I understand.
right?
I'm gonna track back a second.
Yeah.
Back to the manifestors. I think it's great. I think that there's coaches that teach that, and thoughts are things, and that's true. And I think we highly, highly overweight how important vision is. Like without vision, there can be no growth, right? I think that. I think it's like 2% of it though. Like 98% is like the berries bodied underneath the house, the stuff that requires forgiveness in those things. And for me to realize, like, I don't want to be in business alone. So in the same way that you're talking about, hey, I want to be a marketer, I don't want to do this by myself. I can't actually, because my thing is so little, right, by myself, but like it's such a force multiplier for everything else on the outside.
So what I think is important about this conversation is everyone's got their own connection to what works. So for me, vision is most of it. So I think the entrepreneur vision for me, in letting that vision get bigger and bigger and bigger, being in what's next, living out into the future, is where I'm in my happy place. Taking connected action from that vision, expanding the vision, dealing with the friction of impact, releasing it,
Yeah,
becoming more of myself. And I think you're different.
I think
And
we're
you have
saying the
your
same
own
things in a
pathway.
different way. Like I think the vision board's not going to do it. Like it's important to know that, like me on my sailboat and et cetera, et cetera. But the things that I can't put on the vision board are like when it really sucks, like when it's hard. How do you put like grit on a vision board? It's just pushing the boulder up the hill. I mean, as I say that, I'm like, man, I have a team. Every morning during the week I lead the invincibility dojo, and sometimes I show up to that place on zero. And my peers in that group bring me back up to the mean energy of the group. Like that gets on the vision board. And yeah, I derive a lot of power from the future. When our space is full. But like it's the dark, heavy, shitty parts of this journey that make the triumph exquisite. That's the point I'm making about the manifestors.
Yep.
They want to concentrate on the light. Let's not talk about the negativity. Don't bring that here. It's like, no, it's all part of it.
Yeah, that's it.
That's
And
what I'm articulating.
yep, I get it. And I think that with this idea of Okay, so we'll share our experience coming together in a new form as we each maintain our own vision, create shared desire, and create a growth platform that benefits all of us. So that's what we did. So
Yes.
sharing our experience coming together in a new form includes everything.
Everything.
So it's not about
Ah,
the Joe Dispenza kind of echo chamber of love expansion in the room with everyone elevating their spirit together without the depths of the pain on the other side of that, because
exactly.
it's a cycle of creation. It's destruction, it's transformation in transition, and then it's elevation. And we fully experienced this with each other for a year. We didn't hold anything back.
I want to be really clear about a point. And one of my favorite movies is Jurassic Park. And these Michael Crichton, imagine a world where we clone dinosaurs, right? And Jeff Goldblum's character is like, we never questioned if we should, if we could, and the question is, should we? And I'm just reminded, like, we stood on the shoulders of geniuses. Like, and I just need to say this out loud publicly, because I've talked a lot of shit about Dr. Joey D. And, like, thank you. Tony Robbins, thank you.
Yeah.
Like, wow, like, really elevated the consciousness. And it makes it possible for me to talk about quantum entanglement and heart math. Like, 200 years ago, I would have been burned alive talking that way, you know?
Yeah.
And so what we noticed was like the one to many guru to audience. That was great. And now what we're seeing with things like Amazon Marketplace, back when that was cool, or the App Store, what if we did that for an educational platform?
Yeah.
Now there's an ecosystem. So that's just what I saw when we were talking, the leap from mastermind groups to true fractals of people really operating in communion with each other. So let's trade in competition for cooperation.
That's it. And it's the elimination of the hierarchy where Joe, Tony are on stage telling me what's true, and in a packed room running their plays that are good
Mm-hmm.
for when they did it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think those plays and Joe's story about figuring himself out as a chiropractor after the accident he had on the bicycle, where he realized, I know the inside of my body better than these surgeons, and I can't listen to them. That takes real serious courage.
It does.
And I don't know Tony Robbins' story, but I'm sure there's something like that in his
He
story
was
too. I
Larry. He
think
was a janitor.
there you go. I
He was a
knew it.
janitor listening to cassette tapes because he knew that he needed to upgrade his thinking.
Of course, of course that's there. I didn't know the story, but
Yeah.
I haven't followed him that much. But okay, so now, of course, because that's always the story. So that the point is, what is your version of that story? Not following what he did. So we're in a new economy now. We're in a new model coming, but we still have the influencer hierarchical
Oh,
guru audience model, and that playbook's still running on social media, and it's what people are used to. So
yeah.
their beliefs are, oh, I got to find a Tony, I got to find a Joe to follow. And now we're in a new era where it's like, no, we're going to sit in a circle with Tony and Joe, and they're the same as us, equal.
Yes.
They're not elevated, and they're not on the stage with me in the audience. I'm not sitting in anybody's audience anymore. No interest in that.
And just the idea that, like, so if I want to learn something, I could read about it. Probably 10 or 20% mastery. I could take a course on it, maybe 30 to 40% mastery. If I really want mastery, it comes in the friction of working with students. So the very fact that I'm sitting with Tony, sharing my special operations career, what I learned in sales, what I learned in my divorce, is useful to him. It's useful
Yes.
to us. Because, like, what worked in the 90s, is that still relevant today? Like, aren't we evolving?
Yeah.
So if we go into the trenches where the work is actually happening, how valuable.
You said something so important, which is the only way I can really get deeper with myself is to be able to know the impact I'm making on other people around me. And if I create an environment where that can only be rich people, only super wealthy people that can afford my private mastermind, I'm playing the old playbook that they've all kind of continued to run that I don't want to run anymore.
And we're continuing to build the wealth divide. So,
Right.
so if the top 1% or 10th of a percent or 100th of a percent are getting all this next level stuff,
Yeah.
it's not the money itself. It's the thought curation. It's the energetic state that I'm in most of the time. It's what am I interested in? And so if all these coaches, consultants, service providers are concentrating on the 100 millionaires, the
Yeah.
billionaires, that just keeps growing.
It's a huge problem, and it's a social impact problem too. And I think it's also ignorant now. I think it's because there's better models. Like we don't have to do things that way. So I'm watching this too, where this divide is happening, where I'm like, I can lift up into this upper echelon, and it's confusing for people to listen to it because I think I'm saying, no, I want tons of money too. That's has nothing to do with it. Um, it's that you don't have to separate from people who are in the before story stage. So it's about the before story is Tony's a janitor, Joe
Yep.
Polish is was a carpet cleaner, Russell Brunson was some kid who's trying to figure out how to make a living
Pop,
out of the Matrix. Right there, that's the
Pop
before
Proctor was a
story.
janitor too. That I'm
Right,
noticing a
right.
theme.
That's the before story. Now, the after story is I got my private mastermind group, I got my peer group, I got my special group. You can only come in unless you're ready, until you do the right thing. No, screw that.
Yeah,
I'm not
Peter
doing
Thiel.
that.
Peter Thiel's right about focusing on the bottom billion. He's got X projects in Africa. Yeah, we're working with folks in Africa. Like the next Tim Ferriss, Tony Robbins, like maybe he's a refugee right now.
Maybe
Like
it
throw that
probably
kid,
is.
like throw that kid the basketball, watch him become Michael Jordan. He doesn't have a ball yet, you know.
And not out of charity, out of that's the whole
No,
point.
and Tim
It's
Tim Ferriss made a
it's
great
not
point.
charity.
Tim Ferriss made a great point. Somebody asked him, "Why are you giving all away your podcasting secrets? Aren't you worried somebody's going to steal them?" He goes, "Not really.
Why
Maybe
would
one out of 100 people will steal and try to take credit for what I did. I had 6 people this week tell me to upgrade my microphone. Like, if you want better performance, like this is what we're doing on our cutting edge,
yeah.
and we're sharing this with you because we're so grateful that you threw us the ball." So this teacher became the student because the student was given the resources they needed to find their optimal prosperity.
It's the difference between Andrew Carnegie and Howard Hughes. It's the difference between Citizen Kane by Orson Welles, which was based on Hearst, William Randolph Hearst, and Warren Buffett.
Mm,
That's where it is. That's the difference. It's for them. If you're a billionaire and you're trying to get more, or trying to remain relevant, or trying to become more important, you're going to feel the pain of that.
yeah. Yep.
You got to give it away. That doesn't mean give all your money away. It means give your gift to the world to support us, our elevation and advancement.
That's right. And if so I heard a quote, both wisdom and gold, if it is hoarded, we shall be punished.
King Midas.
It's to be used and shared.
Yeah, that's the King Midas strategy. So we see a lot of that. It's, I don't want to pick on Alex Hormozy because I like the guy, but I'm going to pick on him anyways. And it's the King Midas idea. It's because he's a great guy, but I read his story and I'm like, he didn't get there copying him.
No.
Right. So creating the hierarchy, and then people are trolling you and saying, oh, they're jealous. No, they're not. Some are, but it's not the point. The point is they're triggered because they see the bullshit in it, in the hierarchical stuff.
Right.
And we're kind of at the end of that right now. But a lot of people are blinded by it. And what's going on now, I see, if I look at Instagram and Facebook now, is these new things that are launching that are old, that have been around forever. funnel marketing and influencer marketing playbooks and Jeff Walker's product launch bullshit stuff are based on really solid things that are real underneath all that matter. And those guys were amazing, and women. So I said that guys terrible. So the point is that they got where they got because they did something incredible.
Mhm.
And now we're in sequel 5, sequel 10, sequel
Well,
30.
they took the leap of faith into the unknown because they had to.
Yeah.
Like Alex Hermosi had $100,000 or $300,000 sales problem they had to figure out in 21 days, armed with a credit card and Leela Hermosi,
Yeah.
and that's the tools that he had.
Yeah. And then perpetuating that through a hierarchical system is partly just not knowing there's another way, because that's the playbook everyone's believes in now.
Oh
Still believes in. I don't think people are doing these things from malintent. They just don't
no,
know another way.
right. This is yes. Do you remember in your sales training? Like I just this stands out. I'm going to share the opposite. So the number one sales objection is the good enough. What we're doing is good enough, right? What I just saw here was the optimal strategy doesn't exist for you yet because you haven't created it. I
So
wish,
explain that. I didn't catch that. The optimal strategy hasn't been created yet?
yeah, Alex Hermosi didn't have Alex Hermosi to teach him how to do his gym launch program.
Right.
Made 37 million doing that, right? That
Yeah.
was the first major breakthrough, I think.
Yeah.
There was nobody for him to call to figure that out.
No, that's why it worked.
That was the pearl buried underneath, the
Mhm.
hatred for his dad.
Mhm. Hey, Brian, we're losing you. Oh, we lost Brian here. Well, we're at time anyways, Brian. I'm gonna take you off and finish this up. So, all right, you froze on me. I don't want to be rude, but I'm gonna turn you off. All right, there we go. All right, so threw a lot out there. So we're sharing our experience coming together in a new form as we each maintain our own vision, create shared desire, and create a growth platform that benefits all of us. So that's what we've done. So we've created a growth platform that benefits all of us. Who's all of us? Anybody who wants it. And there's ways of doing it where it doesn't cost anything. I'm going to make money. I'll make plenty of money. I'm not going to be worrying about that. I want the before and after crowd to feel comfortable. Um, or doing partnerships. You don't have to pay me anything to do a partnership with me. If you're really good at what you're doing, you got to be the right fit. We both have to connect together around our visions. So you have your vision. You have to be clear in your vision to do a partnership with me. I'm clear in my vision. We're looking for a shared desire and a way to come together around a product that we can stand up on my platform. And you don't have to pay anything to do that. We'll work it out and we'll split it. How's that? Or if you don't have any money and you're really struggling, we have a partnership approach that'll help you make money and help us get known and spread out into the world faster. And then you'll be able to afford to hang out with us if you want, or do something else. Maybe it's just a side hustle. Either way, you can spend 5 days on campus at no cost. That's called Claim Your Guest Pass. So you go to redpillpathway.com/events or redpillpathway.com/content and claim your guest pass. Am I marketing here? Do I have a hidden agenda? No. I want to make money. Yeah, of course. I see a $30 million business. That'll be enough for me. Annual revenue at 85% net profit margin. Not there yet. That's okay. We're early, but we've been working on this for over a year. We've been through the pilot. I did a pretty messy beta right before that. And then a couple of years just trying to figure out what the hell am I doing? And that comes on top of a lifetime of doing my own thing in business development or entrepreneurship or organic growth, trying to find ways not to have to take a job in the matrix. It started because they wouldn't let me in. And then every time I tried to get in, I decided and realized I didn't want in. I wanted to figure out my own way through. So who's this for? It's for anybody, entrepreneur, coach, or service provider, or someone who wants to be one. that wants a better experience. I'm not going to ask you to live on the razor's edge like Brian and I are, or some of our core team, our core inner circle group. I'm not going to ask you to do that. If you are there, we're going to help you a lot. We're going to lift you up with us and we'll create some things together. But if you just want a few more clients, if you just want things to be easier, if you're realizing you don't want to be a superstar on Instagram or YouTube or network through the Facebook ad network platform to get more clients, and you're tired of all that stuff, we've got a really nice alternative where you can keep doing it if you want, or not. And that's the whole point. Is I don't have an answer for you. I don't have an answer for anybody. I have an understanding of principles from a lot of experience, being crushed by things and being in a lot of car wrecks, not literally, um, and having figured out my own way through it. And this is kind of what we're talking about here is you're going to have to do that. But the whole point is you don't have to do it alone. And I think that's what's next is now, we've been in this, influencer stuff for a long time. We've been in this, I figured it out. You can be like me if you come do my thing, buy my program or the how to improve yourself stuff or whatever. And I think there's an opportunity for a new form of this today because we need it. But it really is more about an us of I've been in groups for years, personal development groups where everyone was equal. The billionaires were the same as the people who've been in prison, and sometimes it was the same person. But there wasn't an idea of hierarchy. It came up sometimes. It could be a problem because people are going to do that. But the idea you know more than me because you have $1 billion or $5 billion or $100 billion never made any sense to me. And what matters is you share from experience, know what your own vision is and what you are for, what you're here for, who you want to learn from, what you want to do, what fits you, and how to work with people to come together around a shared desire on your own terms and their own terms without giving up your own agency. Um, and that world to me is what's next. And I think there's practical reasons. And from a business standpoint, it makes a lot of sense because it's almost impossible to get known and break through on social media now because everybody knows how to do it. So you could hire brand builders, you could hire Evan Carmichael, you could, get into, Russell Brunson's inner circle with Tony and all those people. And or maybe Alex Hermosi can invest in your company and get you to 10 million or whatever. But and I'm not saying those things don't work. I'm just saying they're getting harder. And if Lewis Howes came out today and hired brand builders and he was Lewis Howes when nobody had heard of him, would it work? I don't know. It might not. It worked back then because it was new. The idea of packaging who you are, launching that on Instagram, building a following or a podcast, building that audience, getting known as a unique personality through marketing approaches. It was new. It's not new anymore. The problem is a lot of people don't know this. And this is what gets me riled up a bit because I see people selling these things because I hear from people who just bought it, and they're like, wow, I found this way to get out of corporate. And I'm like, what? They said, well, you can become an influencer on Instagram. And I'm like, oh my God. And I know which one. I'm like, which one did you buy it from? I wonder if I know them or not know them because I don't really know these people that much, but more I'm following it and watching it. And I'm like, which one? And then I get mad if I tell them the truth, it's not going to work because they've invested their hopes in it. And that's a crime. I don't think we want the government to stop it. So I don't mean that kind of a crime. I don't think there should be a law against it. So don't attack me for being progressive or something. But it's not true. It's not going to work. You're not going to become a celebrity on Instagram unless you're really unique. And even if you are, it's going to take years. Or you got tons of money. You've already super successful and you can hire one of these top marketing firms to do it for you. And even then, it's going to be tough to cut through.